Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Traveling Groomers Podcast with your host, Mary Oquendo. My guest today is Helen Schaefer. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Pretty good. So we're going to jump a little bit into the life and times of Helen Schaefer. So there's a couple things I wanted to talk about to Helen about. And the first one is she beat me for the Barclays Honors podcast of the year. And technically, it's not even a podcast.
It's not a podcast. I always laugh because everyone does think that it's a podcast, and I guess they just clearly don't listen to it, because I will randomly get messages about what podcast equipment should I buy, and I'm like, ask somebody, literally anyone else.
I tagged you in the Traveling Groomers earlier today because somebody was listening to the episode with Terry DiMarino, and we talked about your podcast, and I can't find her. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to tag you. You deal with it.
You'll find me this Sunday.
Yeah, tell her to join the group. Join Pet Groomers Town Hall, because that's where she is. So I guess by extension, since it's my group,
mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, yes, obviously my win is your win.
That's right.
This is a village. It takes a village to raise a groomer.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so you just got back from Worlds not that long ago. So
yes.
So for those who don't know what the Worlds is, explain that.
So every 2 years, the European Grooming Alliance, I think it's Alliance, it may be association, but it's the EGA, hosts a World Grooming Championship, and they invite teams from every country to compete against themselves. I think we had 22 teams this year competing in the World Grooming Championships. They are held in conjunction with a show. So like, let's pretend it'll never happen, but let's pretend it was going to be at Hershey. You would have your regular competitions on Friday and Saturday, like we normally do. And then the team competitions would be on Sunday.
Okay.
Each country sends 2 to 4 groomers. They have to have at least 2 groomers, but like generally it's 2 to 5, just as an alternate, which is what we do for Groom Team USA. They have they compete in the 4 major categories: poodle, sporting, hand strip, and all of their purebreds or the scissor breeds.
Okay, so
basically 2 and 2.
So how did you get to, I know you weren't one of the 4, you weren't on the travel team, but you still went and you still competed, correct?
That's correct. I went and I technically competed in Groomania, which is the show that it was attached to this time. Okay. It's also the show that it was attached to last time. But the nice thing about competing in individuals is you're still competing against a lot of those groomers that are there to represent their team. And it gives you a real taste of what it's going to take to be successful over there.
Okay. All right. So in the regular competition, so which classes were you competing in?
I did all of their purebreds with a Bichon that I found over there. So I never met the dog before. The breeder was so nice, and so was her translator. It was a beautiful dog. I did not do a beautiful job on it, admittedly, but I kind of got a little lost in the hair. It's difficult when you don't know a dog to like, and they want a lot of growth. So this dog hadn't been given a haircut in 16 weeks. Wow. And I never met it before. And then the water's very soft there. So I did not do a vinegar rinse, but I learned that for day 2. So that was the first day. That was Friday. And then the second day I did sporting.
So in the Bichon, how many other competitors were there in this doing the Bichons?
I think there was 16. But there were 3 of us from the US. So it was Lindsay, Macy, and I, and we were all in a row. And then Liz D'Souza came over and she borrowed a Black Russian Terrier for it. She unfortunately had to forfeit because the dog was just not behaving for her. But we had a really strong representation, and I think that that was really nice because we did a lot of those teams bring all of their top competitors over. So like we have our top 10, other countries have like a top 10 as well. So Italy has a lot of competitors, the UK does, France, and yes, it's easier for them to get over there, but it's nice. I think the US is such a strong team and we're always like a top 3 contender that it was good to have so many of our top 10 there to support the team, to represent the US in the ring.
Okay. So now, did you register this like you would register for like any grooming competition?
Yep. I signed up for their email list. I had been to Groomania before in 2017. I didn't compete then, but I knew that when I went back, I wanted to. It's a beautiful show. It's absolutely like amazing. All the tables were lit up, like Kitty put it on. Kitty was the former owner of Transgroom. They just got bought by Nexus, but they've been putting on this show and they're huge in Europe and just wonderful women. But the education there is great, the judging, so I just knew from last time I was so in love with what I saw. I wanted to be part of it. So I watched their Facebook page. I harassed Kitty and Kitty on Facebook Messenger. When's it going to open? When's it going to open? I registered for my 2 classes. They have a dog rental group. So that's where I went into finding all of their purebred. And then I brought my own Cocker Spaniel because I knew I wanted to do it with him.
All right. So how'd you do with the Cocker Spaniel?
I finished my Cocker Spaniel. I actually am very, very pleased with my technical work on him. Unfortunately, I discovered his coat, because again, they want a lot of growth. I let his back coat grow. And with Cocker Spaniels, you card out their undercoat. I have never let him have that much undercoat, and it kind of wrecked his guard hairs. So when I pulled him out, he wasn't as shiny and silky as he should be. So we're recovering some of that coat. He ended up with some coat damage because of the amount of undercoat and what we had to do to get it out. But I honestly, I was thrilled with my profile. I felt great about my work. I thought, you know, for what I had to work with, I think that I did a really great job. I got nice compliments from people, and now I know better. Now I know, okay, we're not going to leave that much undercoat. Maybe I'll leave more guard hairs, or, you know, I'll grow more furnishings to make it up. But it was a great experience, and that's what I wanted, because my ultimate goal is to make the travel team for sporting. And although I probably won't be able to use Elliot because he'll probably be a little bit too old by the time I do that, I do have a beautiful party colored Cocker that, you know, now I know what to expect. Okay. And that's really what I wanted to do, was to learn what I needed to do.
All right. So what did it take? I mean, now you have to take a dog overseas.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So Mary, if you ever have designs on moving to Europe, smuggle the dogs in. Just smuggle them in. It's fine. Just smuggle them in, because I will tell you, getting an international health certificate is not for the faint of heart. I did not. So I've gotten a health certificate before for international travel, but it was to Canada, which was $35. The health certificate to bring my Cocker Spaniel over for this one competition was $500. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, speechless, right? That's on top of his $800 airfare. My ticket was $955. And I bought an impact crate, which I probably didn't have to buy an impact crate, but it made me feel better buying an impact crate for, a mere $1,500.
Okay.
So I did finance that last one because I'm not actually made of money, but it's expensive. And you know what? It honestly gave me a real perspective on every time the groom team auction happens. And they're like, we're one worlds away from going broke, because they probably are, even with the 100,000 some dollars.
So, all right, so going to, and this was held in Brussels, which by the way is on my bucket list. I would love to go to
It's
Brussels.
beautiful. It's a beautiful country.
So, so that means your passport needed to be current and up to date.
Yeah, it sure did.
I'm taking a cruise in April, and we're going up to Alaska, but I still need to have my passport. And the passport, the cruise line is like, you have to have it. It's got to be where it doesn't expire within 6 months of the cruise. I'm like, I'm good.
That's correct. Pro tip, Mary.
Yes.
When you get your new passport, do not allow your boyfriend to wash your pants that the passport is in.
Yeah, no, my husband does not handle important documents.
Yeah, no, so prior, because I'm such a globe setter, prior to going to Belgium, I had gone to Australia the month before. And I got home and I had gone through customs and I stuck my passport in my pant pocket. And I got home exhausted and like changed and threw my pants on the floor, because my boyfriend, in the 10 years we've been together, has never once brought the laundry from upstairs to downstairs. Not like, he'll do the laundry if it's in the laundry room, but he has never gathered clothing. Like our pile from Florida that we just got back from is still sitting at the top of the stairs. So like he has to walk by it to go downstairs, which he does several times a day. So not once ever in the decade we've been together has this man ever touched my dirty laundry and been like, these are the pants she was wearing yesterday. I'm going to wash them out of the goodness of my heart. Except this one time where my passport was still in the pocket.
So he didn't bother checking pockets.
No. And then he pulls my pants out of the washer in front of me and goes, oh no, I think this is a passport. And he's making a joke out of it. And I burst into tears because I just got this passport right before I left for Australia, which was very stressful because you also have to get a visa to go to Australia. You don't need one for the European Union, thankfully. And you cannot use your passport once the cover is damaged. It makes it void. You might be able to do it. It's apparently up to the airline.
Yeah, let's not take that chance.
No. So the day that we were leaving for Brussels, I had to go get a new passport in Philadelphia. And I was flying out of JFK. And I barely made my flight. Obviously, I did. And it cost me another $300 to get my passport rushed. And also, they do not give you it's not like you come in for your 8 a.m. appointment and then leave with your passport. You come in for your 8 a.m. appointment and then you come back at 2 p.m. to get your passport. My flight was at 6:35. So, like I said, it takes a village to raise a groomer. I'm on my way to JFK and I had to Facebook Live because I was going to have to park in short-term parking. And it's like $70 a day. And Laura Jane Taylor, hero of New York City, came and got my car for me. And I got on my flight and we got there.
And here's another thing too, when filling out passports, fill them out like correctly. So my daughter has to get hers updated because she's coming on the cruise with us. So we sent in the first application without the check, and they sent her the letter back. And then she sent in it again, only she didn't put the little photo in there, and they sent it back. So she's,
my God.
yeah, I know, right? She's like, she's like, I'm not usually this scattered brain. So now she's sending it in a third time. I mean, okay, it's not until the end of April that we're going. She's got plenty of time, but they tell you there is like a significant backlog on the passports.
Yeah, it used to be like 2 weeks if you expedited it, or like 6 weeks if it was standard. Now it's 4 to 5 weeks expedited, which is why I had to go to the passport office and get an emergency passport. And then it's like 8 to 12 weeks if you do it standard, which is
Yep.
what I did with Australia. I was going to Australia in August. I sent it in at the end of April, and I still didn't have my passport like 20 days before I was going to Australia. And again, if you have to get a visa, it can take 2 to 3 weeks to get a visa.
So I guess when traveling internationally, pay attention to this. Now,
Mhm.
I travel a fair amount, mostly in the United States. Okay. But I do love going to Mexico. Okay.
Mhm.
So I have, not only do I have the TSA pre-check,
Uh-huh.
I have clear because I just want to walk up to the front of the line.
Mhm.
And Seattle Airport has been, because that's where all the cruises come in and out.
Yeah.
So the lines for going through security can be stupid. I mean,
Oh yeah.
stupid, like 4 or 5 hours to go through security. And I'm like, I see you guys later. I'm going right up to the front of the line, worth every penny.
Mhm.
I also have global entry.
Yeah.
The first year they had global entry is the first year I got it. And when I tell you, I went through security faster than the flight crew.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I started my global entry application when I was in Australia, and then I had to obviously wait for my passport. And now that I've been home, I haven't thought about it. But I do want to do that before I go to Barcelona next month.
Seriously, it is. I love it. And it's, yeah, if you travel, especially if you travel internationally, you want the global entry. If you
Yeah.
travel a lot in the United States, or watch the airport that you're in, because if you're flying out of SeaTac, you may want during cruise season to have that clear. So like I said,
Yeah.
I wave to all of you as I'm going up to the front of the line.
Yeah, I had clear for a while, but it's not available at Philadelphia. And now that Philadelphia's kind of flights are resuming, I don't have to go through Baltimore as much. So I did cancel it because I was flying up here so much. But the nice thing I think about too with global entry, it includes your TSA pre-check.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that kind of helps too.
Hey, and I got a question for you. All right.
Sure.
So when I went to Hershey this year. All right. Yeah. I flew directly into, not directly. I flew into Harrisburg. Okay, which is not a direct flight.
No.
It was a ridiculous flight. Okay. So next year, if I go to Hershey, what airport should I be flying into, figuring I need a rental car?
Philadelphia or Baltimore are equidistant.
Okay.
Baltimore is an hour and a half south-ish, and then Philadelphia is an hour and a half east.
Okay. Well, Baltimore is close to Washington, D.C. So traffic wise.
I think traffic wise, Baltimore is easier because you don't have to fight out of the city. Philadelphia, depending on when you land, you might get caught up in some rush hour traffic. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I still don't think I can get a nonstop to Baltimore from Seattle. Maybe that'll change next year.
You can. I do all the time when I go to Tacoma.
What airline do you fly?
I fly Southwest.
Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, I have a Delta Sky Lounge. So if my Delta, I can use the Sky Lounges. Okay. Which is vitally important to me. I am not sitting with the general masses.
I like my 2 free checked bags.
I get 2 free check bags.
Yeah, but I don't need status for that.
I don't need status for that either, because I have an American Express card that's through Delta. So I get 2 check-free bags.
Yes, but that's like a lot of steps, like, anyway. But Southwest flies direct, and I believe there are a lot of direct flights from Baltimore because it's a giant international airport.
Yeah, so I'll just see what happens. Of course, I'm not booking that flight just yet. But anyway, all right. Anyway, so we're going to take a quick break for a commercial. And we're back. So hopefully YouTube viewers are used to the fact that, we're subbing the commercial in for the audio people. But anyway, we're back. So I guess the next thing I wanted to ask you about, so you are a rep for Melanie Newman.
Yes.
Okay. So I know I get asked a lot, and I'm like, I have no idea why they're asking me, but they're asking me, how do I become a brand ambassador? I don't know.
So I guess my story with that's kind of unique because 8 years ago, I lent Melanie my poodle when she came over to the United States for the World Dog Grooming Contest. It was held the first year. And so Joey Villani hosted it. He made like a giant deal about it. And so they came over. That was also a competition year for Worlds. So I think they were getting some practice in. And, we just kind of became friends, just talking on Facebook like that. And when I'm a brand ambassador for Pedigree, or Pedigree sponsors me, Pedigree Grooming Supplies. And that was, I used to work for them. Well, Melanie was looking for a US distributor, and it just so happens that they wanted to go with Pedigree because the company values align fairly well. They're both family run, they're both small operations. Robert has the capacity and the warehouse space to, provide Melanie for the United States. And they just felt like that was the best fit. And I was sponsored by Pedigree at that time, or I am now still, but I had already been sponsored by them. But Melanie wanted someone to launch the product. And so it was kind of like a great fit because I did already work with Pedigree, and now I work with Melanie Newman. But Melanie said, she's like, the person that I am is why I am their brand rep. Because I'm kind, I have similar values and morals to them. I'm not, I wasn't associated with another brand, obviously, because I'm sure like she's really great friends with Lindsay, and that would have been a natural selection. But it's because so when brands are looking for people, they're looking for either somebody that aligns with their values, and it depends on the brand. Is it somebody that's aligning with their values? Is it somebody that we want a team of winners, so we're going to collect a bunch of winners? Because there are sponsorships out there like that you place really well, and they're like, oh, hey, you want to join our team? Or do you have like a giant social media following, and you talk about the brand and you tag them, and so then they're like, okay, well, you're making traction, so we're going to help you. So there's a lot of ways, but the best way is to talk to the brands that you're interested in. It's nice to think that people would approach you if you work hard, and they'll notice your wins. And that may have been true like a decade ago. It's not true anymore.
Okay.
That, a lot of these companies are looking for somebody who can provide them with a face, with a following, with like getting the word out. So it really depends. And then there's companies, yes, like Melanie Newman, like All for Groomers is another one. They and a lot of Artero. Artero, if you look at Team Artero, yes, they're winners, but they're good people that are really great at what they do. They're not all social media people, and it's nothing wrong with being a social media person. It's just, what is that brand looking for? Like, we can look at Paul Matt. Paul Matt, it sponsors or has brand ambassadors for a lot of big social media people, because it's not something that you would necessarily notice on a table unless it's brought to your attention. So like Chanel's really smart. She's partnered with people with large followings, and they get their own custom colors and stuff. And so that works really well for her brand and what her vision for it is. All for Groomers is about kind groomers that are doing the best for the dogs, that are using a gentle touch. It's not about winning, and it's not necessarily about a large social media presence, but it's about that person representing their brand's morals. So like me and Melanie Newman, I have like a medium-ish social media following. I'm much larger on Facebook than I am on Instagram, mostly because Instagram's a lot of work, guys. Like, God bless everybody who has like 10,000 followers, because I have I think I'm just under 2,500, and I'm like, when I get to 2,500, I'm gonna close my account, call it a day. But so it depends. So the best way to be a brand ambassador, honestly, is to love that product. I love Wall. I'm a product tester for Wall. I was invited to be a product tester. I love Kenchi shears. Like, I can't work in the Kenchi booth, but like, I was told that I could if I ever retire from competing. I love Melanie Newman's products. I love Pedigree. So, and I'm vocal about the things that I love, and I love with my whole heart. I don't just say I love that. Because that's another, like, there are some people who are like serial brand ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they're selling one product this week and then a completely different one next week. And so I think like, and also, I know everybody thinks like, oh God, they're sponsored. That's so glamorous. Most sponsorships, they give you free product and they ask you for like 35 hours of work per like month, which is a lot. I can't use that much shampoo in a month. So brand ambassadorship is not always what it's cracked up to be. And it's not always that beneficial. So like, it's great wearing like I love my partnerships. I don't even like to say like I'm a rep, or like I have a Melanie Newman email. I am part of the family. We're in a partnership. Like, I'm part of their family. I'm part of the Pedigree family. That's the kind of one that it's mutually respectful, like, I'm not hounded for videos. I'm not hounded for content. They want me to represent their company and their products with love. But there are people who are like, oh, you'll get 10% off every sale that you generate. And then they have to constantly like hawk those products. And it's, is it worth it? So I remember a time when in the competition ring, nobody was allowed to be sponsored. You weren't even allowed to use your shop logo in the ring. That's how old I am in groomer years. And sometimes I miss that. Because brand ambassadorships have like pluses and minuses, and it has changed that conversation from how can I be the best groomer that I can be to how can I be sponsored.
Okay. And for those who are watching, this is like a little rare treat. Cecil doesn't always sit on my lap, but here he is on a podcast. I know you're a good boy.
He's a very good boy.
Very good boy.
And then just pause one moment while I scream out the window at my poodle who's barking at my neighbor. Okay, nobody judge me.
All right, so we got Cecil here who's literally falling asleep.
Stop it.
We all listen to Helen yell at her dog.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. All right. So, and I think the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is that you are with a company called Heart and Paw, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. So Heart and Paw is a Philadelphia startup. It's about 3 years old. Well, my center's 3 years old. The company is about 4 now. And we are a veterinary driven pet center. So we have everyone is a vet hospital. Most of them have grooming and some of them have daycare. We have a couple of partner hospitals where they were doctors that were retiring or selling the business. And so those ones, a couple of them have boarding in addition to the other services. It was founded by 3 senior vet industry people, including Dr. George Malilo, who is still with the company. But they wanted to reimagine pet care. So all of our de novos, which are the actual Heart and Paw Center, so I'm actually wearing my Heart and Paw jacket. They're like open, inviting spaces that are like wired. So like if you wanted to sit and watch the daycare dogs, you could plug your laptop in or your phone, and all the window seats have like cushioning, and there's a big communal table, and it was supposed to be like just a place to kind of like feel that we're your partners in pet care. It's been a ride. The startup life is not easy. I was the second, well, technically the 3rd groomer they ever hired, but the second one to actually work there. There were a lot of like aesthetic choices because they wanted everything to be really pretty. And it is, it's a beautiful salon. We have this fancy green tile that we own the pattern to called Poncho, which is named after Dr. George's dog. It's the first place that I've ever worked, Mary, that I've complained my way into a promotion. I would be like, hey, like when they first built Glen Mills and I went in and I stood in the salon and it was so dark. It was so dark. There were 4 like overhead fluorescent box lights, not even like long ones, just like little 12 by 12 boxes. And the room's probably 150 square feet. And they were all centrally located. And then there was like 3 like fancy pendant lights that were like very soft. And so I'm standing in there and I'm like, it's really dark in here. So somebody from the support center comes through and they're like, oh, isn't this so nice? It's so nice in here. And I'm like, well, it's a little dark. They're like, no, it's mood lighting. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, it's a little dark. I'm like, you think so with all this light here? And I was like, yeah. Next person comes through, same conversation, like 8 different people come through because this is like the walkthrough day. And finally, Dr. George walks in and he goes, it's kind of dark in here. And I knew that I was in love from that moment. He is the best. He really cares very deeply about his employees and the company and the vision and the pets and our care. And his son actually worked at our center for a while in daycare, Georgie Jr., or Georgie the third. And yeah, no, like 2 weeks later, I came in and there was like dust on my table. And I'm like, what is this? Did I spill ear powder? And then I hit the light switch. They had put in 9 can lights.
Nice.
It was beautiful.
So you know how I worked corporate and the windows facing the street with those big windows, I mean, a whole row of them.
Mm-hmm.
When the sun hit it, it was horrible. Okay. So kind of had enough. And I go into the manager's office. You know what? They have AC in there, right?
Yeah.
And I sat down. I'm like, oh God, thank God this office has has AC. I don't know how much longer I could stand being in the grooming room with the sun coming in. I felt like fainting. Boy, that would have been terrible. I would have fainted, and the dog on the table hung itself. Do you know they came up and they had the covering over the windows by the end of the day?
I'll have to tell my girls that at some of the stores. We have that problem. A lot of the new ones have the windows in the front too. And they do get hot. So like we've gone through the gamut. Like now they have we got mirrored tint for the one, like thermal tint. We got them one of those those giant boxes that aren't an AC, but like cools the air down with the cool mist. Can't think of the name of them, but they're always at Lowe's. They're like $500. We got them like this exhaust fan on the roof, so it's finally cool in there. But it took a long time to figure it out.
Oh no, this manager was on the ball. As soon as he heard groomer fainted on the floor, dog hung on the table. Man, he got things done.
Good. You remember his name?
The other corporate stole him away.
Yeah, that's corporate life.
Yeah, corporate life. So what I wanted to say. So you're happy at where you're working, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's like I said, I complained my way into a job. So I one day had like a giant meltdown at work to one of my bosses. He stood on the other side of my grooming table and I stood on mine. And I looked at him, and I'm a frustration crier, which is also frustrating because then people don't take you seriously. And I'm like, no, the tears are leaking out of my body so I don't stab somebody. I'm not like upset. I'm angry. There's a difference. And I don't even remember what I was so worked up about. Because in the early days, there was a lot, and I always brought it up to them and I always had a solution. So that's key when you're complaining at work. Is that don't just complain, have like an actionable step to fix it.
Yeah.
So we're having a discussion and I got very passionate and like heated up about it. And I like stared at him and I was like, tears are welling in my eyes. And I'm like, I need to know somebody at corporate cares about this, my table, as much as I do. Meaning like style. And then a couple of months later, they offered me the style services specialist position, which is my current title. And it was kind of a evolution of me being a subject matter expert and having built a really viable salon in the company. So there are two major salons in our company, King of Prussia, which is the first one, and then mine, and we both make $240,000 a year in gross revenue so far.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah, so and that's a pretty good amount, especially for the majority of the year. I had 2.5 groomers to do that. The next salon down from us makes $139,000 with 2.5 groomers.
Okay.
And then there are some that are like at 50. So like there's a giant difference. And so part of my job originally, my position was to turn around one of the more struggling salons and make it stronger. We successfully did that. And then we hired Caitlin Wright, who is from Maryland originally, and she kind of took over the reins and kept building upon that base that we got going. So now it's one of our stronger stores, and so that those moments have been really rewarding. I was also tasked with making pathways or like ways for the groomers to advance their career. So we have a senior stylist pathway where they can complete 10 continuing education events. I do evaluations. So they have to do a D shed. They have to do a shave down. They have to do a pattern. and they have to do a scissor cut or a longer guard comb cut because nobody has time to hand scissor in the pet world. And then I grade them on, like low stress handling, cleanliness, all that stuff. So that's been really exciting to develop. And we have, I think, 6 senior stylists now. So it's been really well received. And then above that, we have a master master stylist. We're just going to take a little walk because my dog is not shutting up. And the master pathway, no one has really completed yet, but we're getting there.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. The Lacey is being a nightmare.
All right. We lost Helen a little bit there.
And then we've more recently started a student pathway. So the people who are in other positions in the company can learn to groom. And I am doing my first 2 groomers currently.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's been really, really exciting.
Very good. And I do want to make mention that Helen is speaking at the Breed Summit in January for positive educational training.
Yep. We'll be doing it down here in my groom room, which is quieter without peace.
Nice. What else you got going on?
I am going to Barcelona next month because I haven't had enough international travel. And I am going to be doing a Cocker Spaniel there at the Artero Grooming Slam, which I'm super excited about.
Nice.
So I'm borrowing a dog this time. So that'll be very, very exciting. And then I am mostly focusing next year on my goal of making the travel team eventually. Last year I did really well in competition, and I didn't do as well this year as I should have, and a lot of it has to do with my mentality and getting in my own head and making dumb mistakes or not doing the things that I need to do. So my Helen 2023 is going to refocus on that success that I had last year, and getting back to where I need to be.
Awesome. I wish you well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap this up, do you have any words of wisdom for anybody?
I would say it really, so I do, because like I said, this year I didn't do well in the grooming competitions here, but my ultimate goal and the reason that I want to make travel team so bad is I want to be an international judge and speaker, and to do that I feel like I have to have those credentials. And yes, part of this is because of my partnership with Melanie Newman, but this year my dream came true. I was a judge and a speaker in Australia, which is about as international from the United States as you can get.
Yes.
So I spent a lot of the year being grateful for that opportunity, but not grateful for what it meant, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So when you're talking about being a brand ambassador and, I need to be a brand ambassador if I want to do this. It's the same kind of mentality as me being I need to be on travel team for this to happen. This happen regardless of our plans, our timelines, all of that. So don't focus so much on your plan as what's going around you, and kind of let it be.
Okay.
I can look at this year as a failure because I didn't make the top 10 again, or I can look at it as a dream come true because my dream came true. And that perspective shift is really important when you're talking about your goals.
Yes. Being able to see the good that comes out of something, even though you didn't hit one goal, it just means you didn't hit it right now.
Right.
Okay, Helen, you know what? Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Everybody join us next week when I interview another woman making a difference in the pet industry.